Hi, I'm Travis Brungart. Welcome back to the Build Show. This week, we're going to install the new Triple Glaze 100 Series window product from Andersen Windows. Check it out. So as you can see, we're on one of our typical residential additions here in Leawood, Kansas. We've got all of our sheathing up, we're taped and prepped. We actually already prepped our window opening. Just a couple notes about that. Obviously, anytime you're prepping for windows, your concern is primarily water. So what Joe did the other day was basically bring the sheathing to the inside. So we oversized our rough opening by 1 inch to accommodate 7/16 at either side. We made these rips, taped across that flange. We did pitch our sill. So this piece of zip that's on this sill actually has 3 shims underneath it to provide a nice 5 to 7 degree pitch outward so that any water that could get past our flashing attempts would want to drain out and not in. And then with that continuity of taping and our sill pan, our flexible flashing tape, up 6 to 8 inches on the side, we're ready to receive that window. Now we will wet set the flange because it's a flanged window that's going to be installed out at our exterior plane. So we'll apply a sealant that's compatible with the window flange at the top and sides, and then we will wet set that window in place. I'll secure it with some screws, and then we'll install some flashing tape and be weather tight. Check it out. We're excited that on our site today, we're installing what I believe is the first 100 Series Triple Glaze product out of production. And as a high performance builder, we're always seeking ways to improve our thermal performance, our durability, our airtightness, and that's what Andersen's given us with this Triple Glaze product. So this is the 100 Series. So we're still getting that Fibrex composite frame that's twice as strong as a vinyl frame and 700 times more resistant to thermal transfer as aluminum, but we're getting it with 3 panes of glass, which is 1 more chamber of air, which offers that great thermal performance of 0.19 to 0.2 U values, which is really exceptional. So if we're going to install a window, the first thing we've got to do is get our opening prepped. We talked about that a little bit already as far as our sill pan and all the flashing details, but we got to make sure that the window is going to fit. So I always start by checking my opening to make sure that the window is going to fit in the hole. Still got it. We're going to go ahead and drop a couple shims in the corners because when we do get our window into the opening, we want to make sure that it's not sitting on the sill pan. We want a space. We want space for drainage. We want a place that we can put our backer rod and sealant so that we can create that air seal and that back dam. And I like to tape my shims in place before I even start because it's a lot easier when you're setting windows solo to get everything prepped, set it, screw it, and be done. So that's how we're going to get started. All right, so if we're going to set a window, we want to make sure that we're setting it square, level, plumb, all the things that we worry about in construction. We already checked our opening. We know it's going to fit. I'm a big fan of using plastic shims with windows because they won't swell if they get wet. And I like to set them this way because you can adjust this way and not have the back side of your air seal compromised. So this is my preferred method because I can slide them left to right to adjust and get to level very quickly, but they're not interfering with the continuity of my backer rod and caulking that'll be at the inside edge of the window. And once I get it set the way I want, obviously we have to have support under the outside corners of the window. That's the structure of the window. It's critically important that those be supported. It's also critically important that we set it perfectly level. But the other thing I want to point out is I want a drainage path specifically at the corner. I need to have support for the frame at the corner, and I need an opening for any moisture that would get into the opening to find its way out. So with the shims perfectly placed in a level condition, I just want to tape them in place so that they don't move around during the install. That allows this to be a 1-person job from the exterior. So I'm just going to take a section of tape that would cover the shims, but not interfere with drainage. And all I need for those shims to do is hold my window up while I secure the nailing flange. So I've kept my corner open, but now these shims aren't going anywhere. And this is just me repeating the procedure on the other side. I'm double checking to make sure I haven't compromised level. We are level and we are ready to set a window. So I'm going to set my level aside. And now I'm going to use a compatible sealant that won't damage the flange of our Andersen 100 Series window. Obviously you can't get sealants to stick to things that are dirty. So if you have a dirty site condition, take the time to clean it, or you won't have effective sealing. We're going to seal just the top and sides. We want anything on the bottom to be able to drain out. Anytime we apply sealants, tapes, anything that has to do with water or air control, continuity is the most important thing. It can't seal where it ain't. And I've seen guys waste a tube on each side of these openings. The prep that we did to make the wall flat is still in place. The Andersen 100 series window is certainly going to be flat. So we really don't need to increase the squeeze out behind that flange. So long as we have a continuous bead, we'll be very effective in managing water and air. So in order to make sure that I have the window centered in the opening, even though I have it already level and up off the sill, I pre-marked the head flashing at the center of opening, and then I also marked the center of my window on the installation flange so that I could make sure that when we install, I have equal gaps on all sides of the windows, and that's really more of an air sealing detail than anything else, but it also comes down to your architectural plans and having the window centered in the space that it's supposed to be in. Now you can also see that I'm able to shift it a little bit left and right. That allows me to get really good continuity of that sealant, and now I'm ready to secure the window. So I'm going to begin by setting a screw at the top corner, because that keeps the window in the opening. And then I can double check to make sure that I have good squeeze out on all the sealant and that we don't have any other issues that would prevent us from being confident in our installation. Now, I prefer to use screws. I know a lot of guys use roofing nails. You have to use an approved fastener. Certainly always follow your manufacturer's recommendations. I like screws because I pay a lot of money for good windows and I want to make sure to not damage them with a hammer. And screws are easier to control. And that little bit of squeeze out gives me confidence that I have prepared a watertight seal from the integral flange. Some manufacturers will do a flange that's removable that you install in the field, and that just can't have the same level of strength or continuity of seal. This integral flange makes it so much better for the installer and also for the long-term durability of our product. Now you'll notice I'm installing a screw in every single one of the openings on this flange. And I know that you might have seen it other ways in the field, but this is what the manufacturer recommends. And if you're going to buy a good product and expect them to warranty that product, you should really consider installing it in keeping with their recommendations. So you notice that the bottom corner of the sash is really flush. These miters are so tight, this looks like interior trim, and that's something that you get with a high quality window like an Andersen 100 that you might not see from other manufacturers. One of the things that I really like about the Andersen 100 product is that it comes to us square. We always double check, we always make sure that before we secure everything that we haven't pulled the window out of square in the opening, but I have never had to rack a window to make it fit because it always comes to me dead on. So a lot of folks will use a horseshoe shim at the edge to make sure that we don't block the path for water. I'm just going to slip in a little composite shim here to make sure that we always have a way for the water to get out. And then I can screw it back tight. So if we're going to install flashing tape, it's important that we clean off any excess sealant squeeze out because the flashing tape is not designed to stick to wet adhesive or sealant. So if you have a lot, you can scrape it. If you have a little, you can use a rag, but you want to make sure that you don't compromise that seal. So we're going to install our flashing tape over our installation flange and onto the WRB. Whatever system you choose, this specific one is a very familiar one to us. I usually try to get a little bit of a lap onto the side of the frame, but since Andersen's flange is integral, it's way less critical. If you didn't have that integral flange, it would be really critically important to get a lot of lap onto the side of the jamb. But follow your manufacturer's instructions and you won't have a problem. Like rules to live by. When we get to our fastener heads, I sometimes prefer the squeegee in those locations, but I always like to extend down past, and at the head flashing, we'll want to extend past to the side. And then of course we're going to lap our head flashing tape past the sides of our legs and of course above. So it's really important that after you get the window set in place and secured, you double check the operation. On a casement window, you want to make sure that you have the same reveal at all sides and that it operates freely and latches tight. That's how you get the best performance out of your product. So we've completed the installation of our compatible WRB flashing tape, and then we want to make sure that when we trim out the window, we do include the drip cap to mechanically kick the water out from our WRB and drain it away. This is a completed window install. Everything's plumb level and square, and you can see the beautiful corners of the sashes. All the Andersen 100 series expectations are met, and now with triple glaze, so really high performance. We're excited to be using a lot of 100 series triple pane going forward. I got one more window to do.